I never imagined that 20 years after moving into my so-called dream home, the house I poured $1 million into every last bit of it earned, I'd be standing on my porch watching the new HOA president wave a measuring tape around like she was about to duel me at dawn. You want to talk about a wake-up call? Try Eva Flores banging on your front door at 7:00 a.m., yelling about rose bushes being in violation of community standards. That's not a warning, that's a declaration of war. And let me tell you, that's just where this mess begins. At first, I did what any sensible person would do. I rolled my eyes, mumbled something about power-hungry HOA Karens, and figured it was just the latest round of bureaucratic nonsense. But then, out of nowhere, my neighbor Mark Patterson comes flying up my walkway like he's seen a ghost, clutching his phone and gasping for breath. "You better look at this," he says, and shoves his screen under my nose. There's my house, plain as day, listed for sale online, except it's being brokered by Flores Realty Group, and I'm apparently the one selling it. Only problem is, I never agreed to a damn thing. My name, my address, my home of 20 years on the chopping block just like that. Worse yet, according to the shiny new HOA digital portal, my property had been transferred to the association during last month's so-called records update. Ownership gone. My home, my deed, everything I'd built, just a couple clicks, and it's theirs now. You ever have a moment where the floor drops out from under you and you're not sure if you're about to scream or just sink through the ground? That was me. Let me just say, if you're watching this and you've ever been through even half a mess like this, drop your city in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone here. I stood there staring at Mark's phone, thinking if I just blinked hard enough, maybe the listing would vanish, but nope. My sanctuary, where I'd raised kids, planted trees, buried my late wife's favorite rose cutting, being flipped for profit by someone who hadn't even been in the neighborhood for 2 months. She figured I was just another old-timer too checked out to read the fine print. Joke was on her, she had no idea she'd picked the wrong man to tangle with. But in that moment, I didn't feel like a former governor. I felt like just another guy watching everything he cared about slipping through his fingers. Back inside, I locked the door more out of instinct than anything else. Not that it had stopped someone like Eva, who seemed to think the whole block was her kingdom. My hands shook, but my mind sharper than it had been in years. You spend long enough in politics, you learn how to sniff out a scheme, how to dig for facts, and if you're smart, how to fight back. I started with the envelope she'd left that morning. Final notice, big red letters. Not even addressed to me, just current occupant. No sheriff's badge, no court stamp. Just a stack of HOA bylaws, and a demand to vacate in 30 days because of some digital transition audit. If you've ever gotten one of those letters that looks official until you actually read it, the type lots of threats, not much law. That digital transition now, that was Eva's big project. At the last HOA meeting, she bragged for a solid 20 minutes about how paperless records would make everything smoother and safer, but I remember thinking it all smelled like a cash grab. I didn't think she'd try to rewrite the neighborhood's entire property database, but looking back, I should have seen it coming. I logged into the HOA portal for the first time in years. Sure enough, front and center property ownership transferred to Valley Ridge HOA. Status verified. Verified by who, Eva or her cousin with an IT degree. The so-called digital deed even had a fake signature, almost mine, but not quite. The angle was off, the name slanted up instead of down. A good forgery, but not good enough. The timestamp. That was the day I was on TV giving a speech at the state capitol. Not exactly the time to sneak off and sign away my house. This wasn't some dumb mistake. This was a surgical strike. I needed the truth, and there was only one person in the HOA who'd give it to me straight: Linda Green, the secretary who'd survived more HOA presidents than I'd had hot dinners. She always answered on the first ring, except this time she didn't answer at all. That's when the knot in my gut got tighter. And then I saw a shadow outside the window. Eva herself strutting around my front yard on the phone, waving her clipboard like a movie villain. "Yes, Charles, I told you it'll be cleared out within a month. Just a technical glitch. The sale can proceed." Then, like it was nothing, "He won't fight. He's a retiree." Retiree. She didn't know who she was talking about. Soon as she was gone, I called in a favor David Ramirez, old friend, and these days the deputy director of the State Investigations Bureau. I didn't have to explain much before he cut in. "Your deed was altered. Illegally. Whoever did this skipped all the county verification. He found the forgery. He found the fake timestamp. Jeremy," he said, "this isn't just HOA drama. This is high-level real estate fraud. My blood was up, but Eva wasn't done. A few minutes later, she showed up at my door. Sunglasses, on arms crossed, fake smile set to maximum smug. "Mr. Bennett," she says, "just reminding you you're required to trim those rose bushes. Oh, and prepare for compliance inspection. Wouldn't want more violations." I looked her dead in the eye. "Did you list my house for sale?" She smirked. "The HOA has authority to correct clerical issues." Then she leaned in. "Resisting HOA procedure can have consequences." She turned on her heel and stomped off her shoes, clacking like gunshots. If she wanted a fight, she was about to get one. That night I paced the floor, the weight of years pressing on my shoulders. When someone tries to take your home, it's not just property. They're coming for your memories, your history, your sense of belonging. Around 2:00 a.m., I found myself at the dining table digging through every old box of paperwork I had. My late wife Claire always teased me about keeping too many receipts, but her voice was right there in my head. "You'll thank me someday, Jeremy." That's when I found a sealed envelope with her handwriting, "For emergency only." My heart caught. Inside a note: "If anything ever happens with the house, check the rose garden. The cedar box is buried beneath the original white rose bush." I grabbed a flashlight, headed into the cold, and knelt by the roses. Sure enough, a cedar box buried deep inside every original deed survey, notarized closing doc, and even Claire's handwritten ledger of every HOA meeting, repair, and approval since we'd moved in. But the real gold A-signed statement from the original HOA board, my rose garden, and everything planted before the HOA existed, was grandfathered in untouchable. I was still kneeling in the dirt cedar box, clutched to my chest, when Mark came hustling over with his laptop. "You need to see this," he gasped. The HOA portal had been updated again. Now I was listed as pending eviction, owner unresponsive, and the house was under contract. Somebody had already put in an offer. Mark had been digging too. "Jeremy, she's done this before. 3 other neighborhoods, always elderly owners, always during digital transitions, always Eva or her friends. Every time the houses got flipped in 60 days. This wasn't just greed. It was a well-oiled fraud machine." I called David again. He'd traced the digital deed alteration to a ghost account in the records office. "Don't confront her alone," he warned. "This is organized crime." Not exactly what you want to hear at 2:00 a.m. But hey, what's another sleepless night? Next morning, I caught 2 strangers taking photos of my house, supposedly for Flores Realty's buyers. "You take one more step on my property," I told them, "and you're trespassing." They scurried off, but not before I spotted Eva watching from across the street, arms folded, smirk, locked and loaded. I walked straight toward her. "You picked the wrong house," I whispered. She flinched just a little. Then, right on cue, Linda Green finally got in touch, an urgent email. "Meet me behind the community pool, 7:00 p.m. Don't let Eva see you." When I got there, Linda was white-knuckled and shaking. She'd been saving every email, every draft, every shady meeting minute Eva ever doctored, all on a USB drive. And the kicker: there was a spreadsheet, names of every vulnerable homeowner, my name right in the middle with the note, "Emotionally distracted, easy to manipulate. If that doesn't get your blood up, nothing will." That night, security cameras caught 2 men creeping along my fence, work boots, utility jackets, shining flashlights on my property markers, even marking their territory, literally like dogs. I sent the footage straight to David. "They're moving faster than we thought." He promised warrants were coming. When the sun rose, the neighborhood felt different. There was a crackle in the air. I wasn't the only one on edge. Mark arrived with a mountain of printouts, evidence Eva's fraud went back years. Always the same pattern: landscaping violations, fines, harassment, forced sales, shell companies. "She's not running an HOA," Mark muttered. "She's running a crime ring." Then David called, "We've got a witness. County clerk paid to adjust digital ownership records. Eva's name is on the list." The walls were closing in. And just when I thought things couldn't get wilder, Eva herself started screaming at a realtor outside her house, hair wild, face red, shouting about keeping up appearances for buyers. I watched her calm for the first time. "She doesn't know she's finished," I told Mark. "But she will soon." The final battle was set for that night, HOA meeting at the community center. I showed up early. The room was buzzing, neighbors whispering, worried, angry. Eva stood at the podium, flanked by her hand-picked board members. "Mr. Bennett," she sneered, "I didn't expect you, considering you're trying to sell my house, Eva." I wouldn't miss it. Gasps. Then I pulled out the big guns original deed transition logs, proof of the forged signature, and the county clerk's logs showing the ghost account. Funny thing, Eva, the county says the clerk who edited my deed hasn't worked there in 8 months. The crowd turned murmurs, swelling into outrage. That's when Linda Green stood up, holding the USB drive. I have every email, every fraudulent document, every dollar you stole. Eva lunged for her, but neighbors blocked her path. And then the best part, David Ramirez walked in with state agents and a county sheriff. Eva Flores, he announced, you're under investigation for fraud, forgery, unlawful property transfer, elder exploitation, and more. The room went dead silent, then exploded tears, applause, relief. Eva tried to scream. I was set up as the cuffs clicked, but nobody cared. She was done. Outside, the news crews swarmed microphones in Eva's face, neighbors finally able to breathe again. Inside, we hugged, we cried, we laughed, a mess of emotions after months of living in fear. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Whitman, the developer who bankrolled Eva, was still out there. As I watched the flashing lights fade, I realized this was just the first battle. The next day, neighbors flocked to my house sharing stories, threats, fines, intimidation. Linda showed up with boxes of shredded HOA records she'd rescued at the last minute. The fraud ran deep, but now the community was united. That afternoon, state agents swarmed the HOA office. 2 more were arrested, Eva's fixer and a records clerk. Even Whitman tried to show up and rant at me, but the agents cuffed him right there in the street. He shouted about conspiracies, swore I'd regret it, but the only thing I felt was relief as the applause broke out around me. But the wounds were real lives, uprooted homes almost stolen. Healing would take time. Agent Collins from the investigations team explained the road ahead, rebuilding records, undoing the mess Eva left. But she promised people will get their homes back. It'll take work, but it will happen. That evening, the neighborhood gathered on my front lawn chairs, casseroles, people laughing for the first time in ages. Linda announced a new bylaw, the Bennett Rule, no property transfer without triple verification and full resident approval. People cheered. What about the presidency, they asked. Not me, I said, I'm done with politics. But I'll help build a system nobody can abuse again. After everyone left, I walked out to Claire's white rose bush, the cedar box still open, the wind gentle. Looks like we did it, I whispered. For a moment, I could almost hear her laughing. So here's what I want to ask you if you're still listening after this wild ride. Have you ever tangled with an out-of-control HOA or a bully who thought the rules didn't apply to them? Drop your story in the comments, because I guarantee you someone else needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe. We're just getting started with these tales. If there's one thing I learned, it's that justice doesn't come easy. But when good people stand together, nobody, not even an Eva Flores, can take away what truly matters.